Hi, this is Dr. Pingle. I wanted to show you, give you a quick lesson on how to use pivot tables to summarize geographic data. So to do that, I'm going to work with Natural Earth. So Natural Earth is a handy way of getting some data that we can work with here. So I'm just going to go to Downloads, the small scale data, and I'm going to be working with the admin level 0 data right here. So I've downloaded this download sovereignty file here. And that's what I'm going to be working with. So that's here, and I'm going to unzip it and open it up. So what you see in here is a standard shapefile, and we could drag and drop this into our GIS package just like we've done. What I actually want to do is work with some of this data in Excel. So you may recall that a shapefile is actually made up of a lot of different files. The .shp part of it actually only contains the geometry, and the attribute data, if you open the attribute table, is actually stored in this file. This is the dbf file. So this is a dbase file, and these are actually readable in Excel. So I'm going to open up a new window here and close out this old stuff. So I'm going to open this up. We're going to go into Pivot Tables folder. Whoops, don't want the README. Let's try that again. Okay, so what you're seeing in here is a view, and there's actually more information in here. So we're going to browse into the same directory, and by default, this is only looking for Excel-based files. So things that end in .xls or HTML files, but you can actually look at a lot of other things. One of the things that you can look at is dbase files, which is what we care about. I'm just going to set this to all files for just a second. So these are all of the files that are inside my shapefile, and this is the file that has all of the attribute information. I'm going to open it up. So this will open straight in Excel, and you can see that this is exactly similar to what you would get if you opened the attribute data in ArcGIS. So we can demonstrate that if we switch over to ArcGIS Pro or ArcMap if you're still using that. We're going to add some data in here. A little slow on the reading. Okay, so content, whoops. Okay, so here's our shapefile, and we can open our attribute table just by right-clicking and taking a look at it here. So as this comes in, you'll see that this is essentially exactly the same information as we had before. So feature class, scale rank, label rank, sovereignty, that's all of this stuff, minus the FID and the shape, which are unique to the shapefile. Okay, so back in Excel, what we want to do is take a look at this data, and again, to talk about how we use pivot tables to make this happen. So what we have is a number of different administrative units. So you can see we've got Indonesia here. We also have smaller places that might be related to particular larger entities. So this is a sovereign base area that is a dependency of the United Kingdom. We've got St. Martin, which is a country attached to the Netherlands. And so we can summarize these things, we might be interested in summarizing these things. We also have attribute data over here. So we have the place itself. We also have some categories here that we might care about. We have some quantitative metrics like population, GDP, and MD is millions of dollars, the kind of economy, the income group, lots of things here. So what I want to do is just simplify this the very first thing I'm going to do is actually save this as an Excel file. So this is the .dbf that's attached to the shape file. We don't really want to directly edit this, and so we're just going to save a version of this here. So this is a Excel rendering of this dbf file. You'll notice, by the way, that it's smaller. So this is 184 kilobytes. This is 586 kilobytes. This is an indication that this way of representing the data digitally is a little bit more efficient than what you see up here. Okay, so what I want to do is, just to simplify this, I'm going to pull out some particular fields. So I'm going to pull out this one. I'm going to pull out admin. I'm going to pull out the population estimate and GDP, the kind of economy, and if we scroll over here to the right, we also have the UN region, the sub-region, and the World Bank region. And I think we have one more continent that we'll grab. So I'm just going to hit Control-C, create a new workbook, and paste this in here. And all I'm doing here is just sort of, we have a lot of columns there, and it can be a little bit messy trying to figure out what all of those are. So this is just a way to kind of make the data more immediately manageable. This is not a necessary step. Okay, so we have a population estimate here and a GDP estimate. I might also be interested in doing some calculations, which is handy to do in Excel, a little bit faster than it is in ARC. So we might say we want to calculate GDP per capita. We can do that by calculating D2 divided by C2. However, you'll notice that these units are actually quite small, and that's because this is millions of dollars. And so to get the correct amount, you're going to need to multiply that by 1,000,000. So 1 with 6 zeros after it, or you could do 10 to the 6th. So this should be B2. Okay. And we have an error here. Let's see what we did. Oh, there we go. C2 divided by D2. So 10 to the 6th times C2 divided by, oops, sorry, that should be D2 divided by C2. Okay, so this is the GDP per capita. This is the GDP per capita for Indonesia, and we could cross-reference that with Wikipedia or the CI World Factbook or whatever it is that you wanted to use. What we want to do is just copy and paste this into so this is GDP per capita for all of these, and we might go back and we can format these again just like we would do anything else. We may not care about these decimals, so let's add 1,000 separator and get rid of that just to keep things nice. Okay, let's talk about the pivot table part. So if we want to do work with a pivot table on this, we can do that in exactly the same way as we did before. So we'll do insert pivot table. We can select the range, and by default you may find that this is selected correctly already, which it is. So we'll just hit OK. And just like before, in this case we just created a new worksheet, which is nice when the worksheet is rather large. So now we can summarize all of this stuff. So we might be interested in saying, well, what's the, if we wanted to sort of look at this stuff by continent, what would be the total population? So we can add that in here. And we can, again, format these in the same way that we would do in any other way. So we can format these and make this a number and add 1,000 separators and all of that nice stuff. So we get a total population of Africa of 1.2 billion, Asia is 4.4 billion, South America, North America. So this is a really handy way of, again, summarizing this stuff, aggregating the data on your own. And the cool thing is that this is rather flexible, right? So we can do some really handy things like sorting. So if we go into this row label, we could sort by labels, which in this case it already is. But we could do other things. We could sort this by ascending by the summary of our population estimate to rank these, right? So Antarctica with a population of 4,000, the 7 seas, which we can dig into the data later if you want for that. 1.8, And so this is a really handy way of sort of, again, getting a bead on what's going on with your data. Many of these are interesting, so we could trade out continent and get rid of this one. So this would be, this is the World Bank region, which mostly corresponds, although Africa has been divided into Sub-Saharan Africa and the Middle East and North Africa. We could divide this up by sub-region. So the UN region and sub-region should go nicely together. We might get rid of the World Bank. Let's undo this for a second. All right, so let's put in the UN region and then sub-region. All right, so these are all perfectly contained. You can Google these if you're interested. But then we're dividing Africa up into these pieces. We're dividing the Americas up into these pieces. And so we're getting population estimates broken down by this. Now, the beauty of this is that it's, again, all dynamic. And so it's very easy to sort of craft these all together and get whatever statistics that you're interested in.